All right. So a lot of people are taking some shortcuts, and there's a reason in class that when I taught this stuff, I didn't take the shortcuts because I have the ability of telling the future and I know where people make mistakes. So I try to teach things in the way that if you follow exactly how I do it, you're not going to make those mistakes. If you think there's a shortcut and you want to take it, maybe ask. Hey, Miss Criswell, can I just make this a shortcut here, blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you the truth. Tell you, yeah, you can, or not a good idea. First step always is going to be factor. That's our first step. And then the second step is find the domain restrictions. So for 21, we're going to factor it. X plus 6, x minus 3, x plus 2, x plus 8, divided by x plus 6, x plus 3, and x minus 8, x plus 2. There's step 1. Step 2, domain restrictions. Remember, to get the domain restrictions, I'm going to take x plus 2 and I'm going to set it not equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve that, which I usually do take a shortcut because I can do that in my head. If you make mistakes over and over again and you cannot do it in your head, then don't do it in your head. Okay? I have a degree. I've had a little bit of practice, so that's why I tend to do this part in my head. X plus 8 does not equal 0, so x does not equal negative 8. X minus 8 does not equal 0, so x does not equal positive 8. X plus 2 does not equal 0, x does not equal negative 2. Okay, so this step right here that I'm starring is an optional step if you are doing it right. If you keep making mistakes, please don't make that optional. That's optional. Step 1, step 2, not optional. So now step 3, since this is division, I will go ahead and change it into multiplication now. So I'm going to write multiply. Maybe I'll write, and I spelled it wrong. I don't know what I was writing there. Maybe I'll write flip multiply, because that's all I'm doing is flipping it. So now I've got x plus 6, x minus 3 over x plus 2, x plus 8 times by x minus 8, x plus 2, x plus 6, x plus 3. So that's step 3. Step 4 is domain restrictions again. So x does not equal negative 2, x does not equal negative 8. That's exactly the same as the one above it because I didn't do anything to that one. This one over here is different. X does not equal negative 6, x does not equal negative 3. When I flipped it, I now have different stuff in the bottom. So far, there's all my domain restrictions. Step 5, multiply and cancel factors. Remember, you can only cancel things that were factored. So in this step 3 up here, when I go and I multiply them together, so there I multiplied them together, they're now one big fraction. I can only cancel things that I originally factored. So up here, it's like all those parentheses. I cannot cancel just an x because I don't have an x factored. I have to cancel the entire parenthesis. So do we have any parentheses we can cancel? The 2's and the x with 6's. So now I have x minus 3, x minus 8 over x plus 8, x plus 3. So that's step 5. Step 6, domain restrictions. So x does not equal negative 8. X does not equal negative 3. Okay, then our step 7, when we're writing our answer, which domain restrictions did we write earlier but not in final simplified answer? So I'm going to go through all of the domain restrictions at which I highlighted. I'm going to look which ones did I highlight earlier, but they weren't negative 8 or negative 3. Which ones did I highlight earlier but aren't negative 8 or negative 3? Here's one that's not in my final answer. Here's one that's not in my final answer. Here's one that's not in my final answer. In my final answer, 8 and negative 3, yes. But I don't have negative 2. Wait, did I say 8 or negative 8? I'm sorry, I already forgot. Oh, negative 8, okay. So positive 8, negative 2, and negative 6 were not in my final answer. So those are the ones I have to tack on to the end. So I know when we do multiple choice questions, I know multiple choice is good for some people and bad for others. I highly recommend when we have those multiple choice questions that you don't look at those multiple choice answers until you found the answer yourself. And if you find the answer yourself and your answer is not there, what does that tell you? Well, it tells you you're wrong. What also does that tell you to do? Go back and find your mistake. It does not mean pick the closest one because you're going to get it wrong then. Now, if you have your answer and let's say the answer you had was, I think this is the person I was helping, had this part. They didn't have that 8. And let's say they're looking at their multiple choice selections and they notice, well, there's a multiple choice selection that has everything the same except not this. So what I would do is I'd go back, look through to see if there was a way that this should have been an answer. Because maybe you did have it almost right and you missed something. But you don't just pick it because it's the closest thing. It means you made a mistake and you need to go back and find it. Sometimes you can't immediately go back and find it either. That might be one that you flag and come back to later. You guys know, like when you write your papers in English class, if you read it right away, you're like, yeah, sounds good. But you read it 2 days later and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I writing? Like, who wrote this? You know, sometimes you just got to step away from it for a little bit. Sometimes even me, Like I would just have to be like, you know what? I got to redo this from the scratch, from the start, because I cannot find my mistakes. Sometimes I just have to redo it. And if you like forgot a negative the first time, or you wrote the problem down the first time, chances are you're not going to do that the second time. Okay. So please take your time on this stuff and ask me good